scanned the space for blind spots. Between the guards and the video surveillance, there were none. The only possible cover was human, hiding in the midst of a crowd. But crowds are made up of people, and people are unpredictable. An art class arrived, a teacher with a dozen or so students carrying portfolios. They established themselves on various benches and began to sketch. Dan sidled over to one of the watchmen.
"Pretty packed today."
"It is always, as you say, packed," the guard replied proudly. "The Uffizi attracts nearly 2 million visitors each year."
"Sweet,"
Dan acknowledged.
"Were you working here a few years back when they had that big art heist?"
The man bristled. "There has never been a robbery at the Uffizi in modern times." Dan looked surprised.
"Are you sure? I heard some guy snatched one of those naked baby paintings, stuck it under his coat, and walked right out the door with it."
The guard laughed. "This is impossible. At the Uffizi, never. Each artwork has its own weight sensor. If a piece is removed, an alarm sounds and every entrance locks down automatically. Your thief would never get out." Dan swallowed the rising lump in his throat.
"I must have been thinking of some other museum. Maybe yours was the night robbery. They broke in through the roof and—"
Now the man was truly amused. "What imaginations you Americans have. At night, the Uffizi is a fortress. Where there are no guards, there are motion sensors. Not even a little moth could get in."
"Sweet,"
Dan said with very little enthusiasm. They remained in the Caravaggio room a few more minutes and then explored possible exits from the museum via elevator or stairs. There seemed to be no quick way out before an alarm would trigger a lockdown. When they examined the door that provided access to the rooftop sculpture garden, Amy spotted small wires. So escaping up rather than down was not an option either. This entrance was undoubtedly linked to the security system. Once outside, they strolled through the long central courtyard, stepping past the Doric screen to the Arno.
"You know,"
Dan said in annoyance,
"if I owned a hideous piece of art like the Medusa, I wouldn't turn my museum into Fort Knox with every high-tech gizmo money can buy. I'd be praying for some art thief to bust in and take it off my hands."
Amy drew in a breath.
"It's not going to be easy."
The task that lay ahead was so overwhelming that she couldn't quite wrap her mind around it.
"Don't even try,"
she advised herself.
"Break the whole operation down to individual problems. Solve one at a time." "You mean you think there's a way to get in there and get out again with Miss Congeniality under your arm?"
Dan demanded.
"There's always a way,"
his sister lectured.
"We'll need help, though." "What help?"
Amy grinned.
"Sometimes it doesn't hurt to be part of the most powerful family in human history."
Chapter 7. The landing wheels kissed the tarmac, and the Gulfstream G6 taxied along the runway of Florence's small Peretola airport. Behind a row of riot police, hundreds of young Tuscan girls screamed, cheered, and threw flowers. The door of the jet opened, and the star himself appeared, ramping up the excitement level.
"What's up, yo?"
greeted Jonah Wizard. The throng went berserk for 10 solid minutes, while Jonah pretended to be surprised and overwhelmed by such a reception, as if it didn't happen everywhere he went. Camera flashes exploded, and a babble of questions rose from the assembled reporters and paparazzi.
"Jonah, is it true that Gangsta Chronicles is being re-released in 3D? What about the rumor that you're training to be a cosmonaut on a Russian space mission? Why have you lost touch with your mother, Cora Wizard, the sculptor?
Jonah, what's the reason for your trip to Florence?"
"Since when does there have to be a reason?"
Jonah replied airily.
"Florence is off the chain. I'm just here to kick it with some homies and soak up a little culture."
Toward the rear of the crowd, Amy and Dan paid no attention to their famous cousin and his usual hip patter. Their eyes were on Jonah's entourage, who were unloading the Star's luggage from the G6's cargo bay. More specifically, they watched a muscular young man handling an unwieldy parcel that was carefully wrapped and secured. While the shrieking crowd surged to follow Jonah's progress to the terminal, Amy and Dan intercepted the burly member of Jonah's posse.
"You got it?"
Dan hissed. The young man turned and raised the flat visor of his Whiz Up Tour 2010 baseball cap to reveal the grinning features of Hamilton Holt.
"Hey, guys, how's it going?"
"How should it be going?" Amy asked wearily. Hamilton turned serious.
"Any word on Reagan?"
"We saw a picture," Amy informed him. "They all look okay, but you've got to figure they're pretty shaken up."
"Let's check out the merchandise,"
Dan prodded.
"Not here," Hamilton warned. "There's a VIP suite in the terminal. Jonah's meeting us there." "Check it out!"
Jonah removed the bubble wrap and held up the picture for his three cousins. Dan took a step backward. The shock was almost as powerful as it had been the day before at the Uffizi.
"It's perfect. It's every bit as disgusting as the real one."
Amy nodded.
"And so fast. We only called you yesterday."
Jonah shrugged.
"Even the Janists take a shortcut every now and then. You can do a lot with digitization these days. You break the picture down to squares and reproduce them one at a time. The other two are just as fly." "You mean just as hog ugly," Hamilton amended. "The serpents don't help," Dan put in critically. "Live fat spaghetti. Look, that snake's biting the body of another one. Lady, if you're thinking of a modeling career, forget it."
The rapper clucked sympathetically.
"You guys just don't appreciate the power of the visual image. The Wiz used to be like that, until Gangsta Chronicles. When you're in the film industry, you understand the whole picture's worth 1,000 words deal."
Hamilton rolled his eyes.
"Here we go again."
Jonah picked up one of the Medusa copies.
"Just look at this sucker. It's every slasher flick ever made, packed into a single stomach-turning moment. That's why the Janus always respected Caravaggio. Back in the day, we tried to marry him into the family. Rembrandt's aunt, I think. He didn't go for it. If she posed for this picture, I can see why," Dan agreed. "That wasn't it," Jonah told him. "The Janus records say Caravaggio was part of something bigger than the Cahills. Remember, the family was pretty new back then, only a few generations past Gideon's time. But I think the real reason artists love the Medusa is the whole Da Vinci connection."
"Leonardo da Vinci?"
asked Amy, overawed. "The story goes that somebody gave Da Vinci a shield to decorate, and he painted the face of Medusa on it. You know, turn your enemies to stone."
A flash of the world-famous grin.
"Nobody's ever seen Da Vinci's shield, but according to legend, Caravaggio used it as a model for his own Medusa."
Hamilton frowned.
"How many Medusas are there?"
"Only one Medusa that matters," Amy told him with certainty. "The one we have to steal from the Uffizi." Dan took a piece of paper from his pocket, unfolded it, and held it out in front of Jonah and Hamilton.
"Here's some more stuff we're going to need. 1 pair coveralls, 1 extension ladder, 30 foot, 1 glass cutter, 1 artist's portfolio, large, 1 water pistol, 1 bottle India ink, 1 portable trampoline, collapsible, 1 bicycle with basket, 4 pizza boxes."
Jonah whistled.
"I hope you got some crazy evil genius strategy, 'cause straight up,